Hello everyone, my name is Zach, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well today. Today I'm going to be responding to a lovely video by Angela over at BlondeBooks where she talked about disability representation in books, and she talked about A Curse So Dark and Lonely, which featured some cerebral palsy rep, which she has, and kind of the future of disability rep, and kind of why it was so exciting to her. Since I'm still dying of the flu,
so you wouldn't actually know this yet because I'm releasing videos in a different order than I recorded them, but yes, hi, I had the flu when I was recording this. Sorry for sounding like a chain smoker.
I figured now would be a great time for me to talk about kind of disability rep, kind of things I'm worried about and things I don't want to see. Just going to state this for anyone who might be new to my channel. I actually have disabilities. I have type 1 diabetes, and depending on your definition of disabilities, you might consider me to have a second disability, and that is celiac disease, which is a super strong form of gluten sensitivity, basically. I'll leave a link to a video from fellow booktuber and fellow celiac disease sufferer, Avery, over at Avery Loves Books. She did a much better, much more detailed explanation of it. I'll leave a link to that video below. But just wanted to make sure everyone knows that I have disabilities, so I guess this is technically own voices, I think. But just wanted to put that out there, that I'm not just like coming to rain on disability rep and act like it's not important. I'm just saying that as someone with a disability or disabilities, these are some things I'm kind of worried about when I think about the publishing industry and kind of trends with other forms of representation, and things I'd really like to avoid if we could. So the first one is fairly obvious, I would feel like, and that is inaccurate representation. Back in the day, I would be a lot more forgiving if I read an older book that had disability rep that was kind of but in the internet age, I really feel like there's not much of an excuse. I mean, you can go on YouTube and look up people talking about their disabilities and their experience with those. You can go on social media and ask if any of your followers or fans have the disability and ask them if they would converse with you about it and answer some questions about it. You can get beta readers that have whatever disability or illness you are trying to represent and have them give you feedback. So I really don't feel like there's an excuse for bad or inaccurate representation. So just do your homework, please. It's not that hard. Thing number 2 I don't want to see in disability rep is what I'm going to call in-name only representation. Basically what this means is I don't want you to say, oh, yeah, this character Dave, he's got diabetes. Okay, but if Bob has diabetes and he's a character that's featured throughout the story, I want to see him have low blood sugar, or check his sugar, or complain about how, he has to cut back on the sweets. He better not be drinking regular soda. It better be diet soda. Make references to how he's constantly having to use the bathroom. Let me see on the page that he actually has diabetes. Don't just tell me he has diabetes. This is a sin I've kind of seen with LGBTQ plus representation, specifically Lando Calrissian in the Han Solo movie. There was this whole big thing where he was supposed to be pansexual, and then when you actually got to the movie, that didn't really play in anything or didn't even really show up. I mean, he might have had romantic feelings for a robot, which I guess you could argue is pan representation, but A, it didn't really feel like a romance, and B, the robot was pretty effeminate, so like, I don't really know if that super counts. I'm not pansexual, so I cannot speak to that representation, but I personally felt like they just kind of said it and went, all right, boys, our work here is done. And it's like, no, you threw it on there as a marketing scheme, and you didn't actually, do anything with it. Piss off. Thing number 3 I don't want to see in disability representation, just a plot point. So there's a notion in writing called Chekhov's gun, where Anton Chekhov basically said, if you mention in chapter 1 that there's a gun hanging on the wall, it needs to go off or be shot by chapter 3. Basically, the idea is that everything you include in your story needs to amount to something. Therefore, I think it's perfectly okay to have the disability a character has play into the plot or into a scene in some meaningful way. As someone with diabetes, I think a great example could be a horror scene in which a character is being chased by a monster or a killer with low blood sugar. This would really help heighten the tension because They're going to be really shaky. They're not going to be able to run as fast. Their head's going to be kind of fuzzy. They're going to be breathing heavier because their sugar is low, and that's what happens when you have low sugar. There's a lot of things you can do with the plot and the disabilities. However, if the only time the disability comes up or the only time the disability is relevant is for a plot point, it doesn't really come off the best. I really feel like this problem is undercut as long as you make sure that throughout the story you're mentioning, again, like I said earlier, you know, whatever the disability is, you're mentioning the things they have to go through in daily life leading up to that plot point, and then mention that they're still dealing with those things after the plot point, then you're fine. But if you don't do anything, you don't bring up the disability until it shows up as a plot convenience, and then you never mention it again, folks are probably going to get upset with you, so maybe don't. The fourth thing I don't want to see in disability rep is characters who are just their disability. I have an example of this, but given context, it doesn't really count, but it's the best I can do to give you an example. In Dean Koontz Frankenstein, there's a character called Randall. Randall is a lab experiment who is created to be a human with severe autism. He's kept in a lab and he's only really given crossword puzzles to keep himself busy. Everything about the character, all the character's actions, and all of his interest all relate back either directly or indirectly to his autism. I feel like this one can still get a pass, A, because, like I said, he's kept in a lab, so he's not really allowed to develop interests and hobbies outside in the world. And also, as far as I'm aware, I don't have personal experience with anyone who has autism, but from what I've heard, autism can kind of be so severe that it's all-encompassing in your life and affects every aspect of your life. So I'm kind of willing to give this one a pass, but I still think an argument to be made here is that unless you have specific context like Randall does, make sure your character is not just the disability. For example, like I said, I'm diabetic, but you know, I'm so much more than just a diabetic. I really like making music. I really like listening to music. I'm going to college trying to become a statistician. I really like sitting by the lake. I enjoy nature walks. I enjoy reading. I enjoy games. I enjoy movies. You know, I'm a human being with a diverse life full of different activities that I have to do and enjoy, and a personality. I'm thinking myself as sarcastic. I can be optimistic and cynical. I'm kind of flip-floppy that way. Make sure you write a character like that. They need to have, you know, hobbies, interests, a personality that's not just Jim has Crohn's disease. If that's all you know about the character, or that's like the only thing that like you see the character do is just have Crohn's disease, it's
not a good look.
So the last thing I don't want to see in disability rep, and this one I think kind of has to go with some asterisks, and it's going to kind of depend on the person, but I'm going to say don't have disability rep that's always baby gloved. I know this is kind of a weird phrase, but basically it means don't be afraid to include humor and jokes that involve a character's disability. Obviously, you shouldn't be downright rude or frame it that like having a disability is funny, but having jokes around it is, I feel, completely normal, and I make jokes about my disabilities all the time because I feel it gives me a little more power over those disabilities. You know, having diabetes sucks. The pharmaceutical industry here in America is going to bend me over and have its way with me and my wallet for the rest of my life. The least I can do is joke about how I have to use the bathroom all the time. I'll give you a great example, and I want you to have your natural reaction to this one, okay? I was playing a fighting game with my friend Jason, as we sometimes do, and we started getting competitive. You know, there was some trash talking going on, as friends often do. And he got mad at me when I was spamming a move and threatened to shove a piece of white bread down my throat. Now, if you'll remember to the start of this video, I'm severely gluten intolerant and will be sick for literal days if I ingest even like a crumb of wheat. So I'm sure some of you went, "Oh, no, I can't believe he said that. That's terrible. I'm so sorry." While I appreciate your sympathy, that's hilarious. How absurd is my life that my friend is threatening me with a piece of white bread, and I have to take that threat with like a sense of deadly seriousness, forcing me to eat a piece of bread. Is that not a little funny? Like, even from my perspective, like, it made me laugh because I was like, wow. What a threat, man. I think another great example of this, and I think one of the greatest examples of disability representation in all of media, is Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Toph has a lot of personality. Her disability still affects her, and it, causes some plot points to happen, but she's so much more than just a character who's blind, and she's still strong, but still weakened by the disability. But one of my favorite things about Toph is that she actually jokes about being blind, and there's some actual jokes at her expense because she's blind. You can look up, there's a compilation here on YouTube. I will try to link it below if I remember. But, they're really funny jokes. And, again, I don't know if people writing disabilities will be nervous to write jokes, but I don't think there's any problem with it. And I think a lot of people like me with disabilities will very much appreciate the fact that you're willing to make a joke about it, because having a disability sucks. Being able to laugh at it and minimize the kind of control it has over your life helps a lot of us get through the day. One thing that you might want to keep in mind is it's important how you kind of frame the joke. I mean, you could have it to where, one character makes a joke about another's disability, and maybe one of their other friends, reacts and yells at them, and the character with the disability is like, nah, guys, it's actually pretty funny. It's all cool. Because that's how things go in real life. People make jokes about my disabilities, and someone, as I said, someone always, you shouldn't make fun of him. He has a disability. It's really fine. I promise you. So there you have it. Those are 5 things that I do not want to see in disability representation in the future. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, especially if you too have a disability. Do you like to joke about your disabilities? Is there something you want authors and publishers and editors to know about disability rep? Leave all those in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please go check out Angela's video. It's a lot more upbeat and optimistic than mine, and she's not dying of the flu like I am. Make sure you check her out. But thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I will see you next time.